And we are live.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today to today's Public Works meeting. Just want to say that it's tough eating after a full lunch. But anyway, somebody didn't get to eat, I guess, Kevin, right?
That's okay, the new sheriff went in here.
Doesn't look like there's too many of you.
Anyway, for some reason I had my council advisory thing here, I don't know why that's there. But anyway, so today we're having an open and closed agenda. And Scott, I guess you probably want to open up with, all right, well, I got to do one other thing first, sorry. Is there, Colby, do I have any conflicts of interest?
No.
Can I have approval for the agenda?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, just on the agenda, this has been coming up, taking the weeks about signage for Christmas. Perhaps put that
Right,
in
it
the
is.
agenda,
You want to hit that on?
please.
Anyone
On
have,
the session.
anybody have any problems with that?
That would be an open?
Yes,
Being open?
open and transparent.
Okay, okay, so I need approval then, so moved by
Yes.
Council Ramsey, second by Council Yankoff, all those in favor?
All right.
Thank you. Adoption of the minutes for October 27th.
27.
I'll need a mover and a second, moved by the mayor, second by Council Ramsey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Business arising from those minutes?
Just under tenders, page 5 of 6.
Okay.
You see that? There was an issue that we discussed that it was budgeted for 50 and it went up to 118, right, Scott, for those old-fashioned lights? That we went over budget. But I just want to go back to some other items that we went over budget on. And Mr. Chair, you understand where we're coming from and how we're consistent. So we look at Greenfield Avenue for the sidewalk. In the budget, the capital budget, it was budgeted for 80,000.
Mhm.
We had a low tender of 244. So we were up at 200% of that. Belmont was budgeted at 70, and it came in at 217. So again, you look at 150% more. So if we're going to be consistent about how we talk about how some items went over budget, I'm totally in favor of infrastructure. COVID-19 is not in our budgeting process. So again, let's just be consistent if we're going forward on this, because I believe that the traditional lamps or old-fashioned lamps on Fitzroy, it's not on the agenda, so I think you defer it until maybe next year, and then we'll properly budget it. But again, let's be consistent, and if we're going to be fiscal conservative hawks, let's stay with what we preach, practice what we preach. So I just want to get that.
So just to
Okay.
clear that point, Mr. Chair, and although that is true with the cost, if you recall, the committee and or council indicated that you do not go with the planning, worship, and approach at Maritime to see if they could put them in consideration with that project.
Maritime Electric,
Yes,
they don't do it.
no, they would put in the poles.
Just
and-
pole. It's not, it's the 500 lots.
Right, but that's your council
Yeah.
indicated worship.
And I think to be harmonious with the 500 lot plan that was started way back in early 2000, it's consistent that we continue to provide old-fashioned lamps for the old city.
So, Council Duffy, you have something?
Yeah. The need here is lighting for safety. The need downtown for the old-fashioned lights is to have that colonial old style. There's two different needs. It's a decorative thing downtown for the tourists and the residents that to enjoy downtown. Down there, it's right next to a pumping station at the bottom. And as far as linking up with the continuity, so to speak, of the lights up in Fitzroy Street, well, this is a little bit, once you cross over Rochford on the bottom of Fitzroy, you have a Maritime Electric one, which sheds a great more amount of light than the old-fashioned ones. Then you come down towards the pumping station, and 3 or 4 of the Maritime Electric ones, like you have on this block to start, would do the trick. And we can have those for $1,000 a pole. So it's $4,000 to address the need. However, And the lights, I talk about continuity, the lights where they're going to on Brighton Road, right from there over to North River Road, they're all maritime electric lights too. So, and it's not 118,000 or 116,000, it's $136,000 because of the HST of 15%. So you have a need, it's dark, you need safety for the folks. There's very few folks, pedestrians on that, by the way, that piece of sidewalk.
It's too dark.
Pardon?
It's too dark.
No, if they're going north, of Brighton Road, they're coming either through the Center Road Parkway or in front of Government House and taking the winding road to Arsenault's house, the old nursing residence, on over Brighton Road up north. If they're coming this way from the park, they're coming by Beaconsfield and up Kent Street and away they go. There's very few people go down to the bottom of Fitzroy. So where do you go from the bottom of Fitzroy?
Because it's
over into a grass lane, or this way up to Brighton Road, or that way.
I think what we'll do, folks, is we're gonna leave it. I mean, there's information from the public as well, there's people for, people against it. So I think we need to, look at it from the stewardship of the taxpayer and see, talk to Maritime Electric, see what they are willing to offer. But I think certainly over on the new walkway going from along the Terry Fox probably should be the lanterns for sure.
Well, we don't know because.
But I think that would be
That's
something.
that area is still part of the 500 lots.
Yeah.
I know what Councilor Duffy's saying, he forgets that the 500 lots is everything south of Houston.
Yes.
So Fitzroy is south of Houston, so that's still part of the 500 lots.
Yeah.
But again, getting back to the point, the GST, the HST, they are taxes that are retrievable by the city, okay? So we tax it, but then we get it back as a tax input credit. But again, going back to the fiscal conservative hawkism that occurred, it's too much, it's way over budget. We did it before on Greenfield Avenue, and it was over by 200%. I fully support infrastructure upgrades. And we took the money out of the fire station.
Mr. Chairman, that argument is silly. It's just plain
No,
silly.
that's not-
Because we're 200%
Let's be
over on other,
professional.
200% or 150% on other projects, we have a chance here to spend $3,000 instead of $136,000, but we're going to spend the $136,000 to keep the trend lines even with the other that unfortunately costs us a lot more money. That's inane. It's inane.
I will not use language that was just used. I'll be professional, and I will not insult people, but I will say to you that again, it's part of the plan that was brought in place back in early 2000s. So
Couldn't be, you couldn't be, Mr. Chair, it couldn't be because we wouldn't have one of the big maritime electric lights starting this string
this is
of
the last
darkness.
piece of it.
Yeah, so if we, Peter, did you have something?
It's just one thing, council gave us instructions to work with Maritime to get a quotation and time frame. We'll get that information, because the council already gave us that appointment, which we cannot go backwards, and the council tells us to go backwards. We cannot, we have to keep going forward.
I want to come back here for sure, because again, we have to keep harmonious
It will come back here, we'll go back.
plan going forward.
To come back to council.
And again,
It's not come back here.
I'll be very respectful on this committee. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much, thanks everybody. Okay, so we are moving on to, so any more business arising, good, thank you very much. Any reports? So 6A is the minutes from City Board of Persons with Disabilities. So just to give a little update there, so the committee over the past few months ran into some frustration, and the mayor and I went to the last meeting, and we kind of gave them a word that we're change the infrastructure a little bit, as how the minutes, we forwarded the minutes to the package that goes in the monthly public meeting in council, but Public Works is actually not reacting on any of the suggestions or ideas that they had, so it should come to our Public Works meeting first and then forward it on, right? And any actions that we want to take with what they recommend, then we have the opportunity to do so. So that opportunity hasn't happened. So they've got 10 or 15 outstanding items that have just been, and they're not necessarily, they don't want to see them all get through. They just say, geez, it'd be nice to hear back whether yes, no, maybe. so that's why they're here. So you're going to see them in the minutes every month now, moving forward. so that we can conduct business with what they recommend, and they're not looking to change the world either, and, you know, they know about a budget and how that works, the financial side of things, and they're producing a free ticket to do whatever you want, so everything has to go through the public works department, so that's, why that's there, and if there is any questions on the minutes, go ahead, Councilor Randy.
As you said, you and the mayor were there. What's this plaque that Pete's got?
Okay, yeah,
I have
so,
two questions.
so the board felt that Peachtree put in an elevator for folks that are in wheelchairs and have difficulties climbing stairs. So the culinary some years ago put in an elevator, and the city gave them a plaque of recognition. So they're asking, would the city consider giving Peachtree a plaque for you know, and make a media bomb out of it, so that, you know, so other businesses want to take the opportunity to do the same. So that's what that's all about.
Okay.
And
No, it's just the way you stated here, the
Yeah.
mayor, Council Cloud and Mayor Brown are going to have it done.
Yeah,
So that's just, yeah.
yeah, it's just it's a plaque. They probably would just come out of the mayor.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one is D. Scott, I don't know if you received that email from me this morning. Is that the same issue? Like David by Tim Hortons, correct?
Yes, so that's the same intersection. I saw your email there. I gotta dig into it and try to figure out what the issue is. It is a unique intersection.
It's a dangerous intersection.
It is, and it's part of the upgrades on University Avenue Master Plan as well. There will be some substantial.
I think Councilor Duffy received that email, too. Yep. Councilor Trudeau and somebody else.
So I think we were going to look at it, see if we could adjust the light. The time the walk is long enough, so that when people go walk past these strips, it's going to be.
It's not an overlight flashing section.
No, well, signalized intersection, right?
Yeah.
So you can't add any additional lighting at all, and only you can use is the pedestrian crossing light. We've looked at that before, this is not the first time
No,
that
it's
has,
not.
and we have adjusted it before by an additional 3 or 4 seconds. The problem is when you leave that walk sign up too long, and someone say hits it, or it leaves green on Nassau Street way too long, because you have to have a minimum countdown time.
Right.
And so we maximized it as much as we can, and there's more than enough time for anyone to walk across there. And the goal is not, you know, you should not be able to walk across when the walk guy is up. That's not what the saying. Walk guy pops up, or the walk person pops up and says, okay, it's safe to cross, you have the permission. At any given time when you're in a crosswalk, that hand will flashing. All that is saying, you're not supposed to start crossing the road. Doesn't mean that the light's gonna change and you're gonna be in the middle of traffic. That usually gives you about 10 to 13 seconds until you get across. And so that's why, because we have such a long flashing mode, to extend that, the pedestrian, the white light there, to extend that, we're going to, when we have some delays, especially because peak hour, there's a lot of traffic delay, there are a lot of traffic on University Avenue trying to get out of town.
So we're guessing in the end, so you think it's enough, like, don't forget, they're,
Oh, yeah,
they
yep.
got the lens
Yeah.
on of someone in a wheelchair.
We've looked at it, since I've been here, I think we've looked at it 3 times now,
Okay.
and we have increased it twice.
Okay.
So I think last time we looked at it would have been 2019, I want to say.
And so getting back to the
Yeah.
original idea, you would see that's good response, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they want to hear. They just
Yeah,
wanna hear-
and they were advised, would have been advised back then as well.
So would we be extending the time for another 2 seconds? I'm just saying for example, from 13 to 15 seconds.
We can look at
I
it,
don't know.
we'll look at it again, like I say, it's just, so I have a gentleman that does a lot of the program that helps me out with that, and he sat there a number of times to watch pedestrians and how long they're taking it across, and there's been ample amount of time before that hand stops flashing, to get people across. But we'll have another look at it, absolutely, we'll commit to.
So would you be responding to that email, Scott?
Yes, yeah, I'll give you a response back, once we get done. I think you sent it just before lunch hour.
Just come in this morning.
Yeah, so,
Councilor
yeah,
Duffy.
I just had time to briefly look at it, so once I have time to kind of fully understand exactly, what they're seeing there, we'll respond.
And 9 times out of 10, Chair, sorry, but this,
No, no, go ahead.
9 times out of 10, people want a response to know that we are looking into a certain issue, or we're not looking into a certain issue. But if you do not hear back from us as councillors or you as department head, well, then they're saying, why am I even bother?
Mhm.
So
Oh, absolutely.
that's my reason why
Yeah.
if you're gonna respond.
Yeah. No, we usually, so if we get a response from council, we usually try to send a response right back to the
Okay.
individual councillor.
Yes,
If we get it directly from the resident, we always, well, I do, and I do advise my staff, ask them, if you get an email from council, or if I send them an email saying, can you respond, please? We usually send a response just acknowledging at least we've received it and are looking
Right.
into it.
Yeah.
So we do make a very good effort of
Yeah.
responding to people.
Excellent.
We don't want them thinking that their concerns are going unheard.
Exactly.
So the next meeting, I believe, for Civic Board of Persons with Disabilities is the 16th of December. So I'm wondering if I could take a look at that and have
Yep.
a response to some of the items that they're requesting.
Yeah, I think there's only two that actually apply
Yeah.
directly to public
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
This one and another signage one.
This is just a regular resident who's on there.
Yes, that one, yeah, yeah.
And this is not this building.
Yeah, but it's under there too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Any
Mr.
other-
Chair,
I'm sorry.
so the sooner that we get onto this University Avenue plan, the
Quicker this
active
progresses.
transportation pathway
Yeah.
will be on the east side,
Yeah.
6 to 8 feet wide,
8 feet.
extending from University and
All the way
Kirkwood right up to University of Belvedere, correct?
And we're gonna
No,
be-
right from downtown, right from Houston, all the way up
But
to.
the first phase will be from Kirkwood to
Um,
Belvedere, or is
The
it?
first phase that we're proposing is in the vicinity of Belvedere Avenue,
down
to almost Nassau Street, in that
Right,
vicinity.
so
yeah.
that'll connect the sidewalk that's already there to an AT pathway.
Yes, yeah, well, again, we haven't fully designed it, but that's the year we're considering for phase one, yeah.
And we'll be going into that here in
Yeah.
about 2 minutes. Yeah.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, just on the civic disabilities issue, it was asked to hand against
Yes,
2023.
that's right.
Kyle Dudley will be reaching out to the chair or yourself
Address it there.
to come together with it.
Cool.
And if we don't hear, let's
That's make sure.
send an
Okay.
email
Okay.
to Kyle Dudley, the executive CEO for
Yeah, so one of their concerns was that fact that, here we are hosting campaigns and there's actual competitors that are disabled.
Frank, then, with the disability.
It'd be nice to have a little bit of infrastructure. So, anyway, so let's move on. So any other questions on City Board of Persons with Disabilities?
Sure, thank you.
I see none, thank you very much. University Master Plan, discussion, Scott, do you want to go the ball on that?
Thank you. So it's not the first time we brought this here, probably I think it was August, one of my last, July or August, one of my last meetings before my 8 weeks off. Brought this forward to kind of go over the concepts and the plan to show what it could look like at the end of the day. We have started speaking to a few impacted businesses. Good support so far, some concerns as always, but those are just, they just want to make sure that their business aren't impacted, which we 100% agree. We will be scheduling more meetings in the coming weeks and months to make sure, we want to try to meet with as many individual business owners as possible. That way, there's no unanswered questions and they're not getting misinformation. We want to work with them all. And the reason why this is back here for sure, we would like to have a motion by this committee to recommend to council to adopt the plan so that we can start making construction plans for future construction seasons.
That's this one.
For the next year.
That's correct, starting next construction season, yep.
So, Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question?
Yes, you may.
I know a friend of yours, a friend of mine, looked at some of these recommendations. The recommendation of Belvedere
Mhm,
heading east
mhm.
to, what's the new pizza shop? Lane?
Lanes.
Correct.
Lanes.
Mhm,
We are planning to go with a left turn lane on that section of Belvedere
mhm.
and designated.
Correct, yep, designated left turn lane. We would love to fit a slip lane in, but it's just to line everything up, you can, but it will be a dedicated left turn lane, that's correct, yes.
And there won't be a dedicated, well, there is a dedicated left turn now on University Avenue going south,
Mhm,
east
Yeah.
on Belvedere.
Yep.
And customers can use that too, going to Blades.
So, for,
I just
so
wanted
for
to
the
know.
folks on, if you're trying to access Blaze, so if you're on University Avenue, you have to turn onto Belvedere, and there will be a left turn lane for folks to turn into Blaze.
Oh.
Yes. We're proposing a median down along front of both the Mills there and Blaze on University Avenue, and solely because of how many lanes we're crossing. We're crossing, there'll be about 6 lanes across, if I'm not mistaken, right now. Yeah, 6 or 8 lanes. It's pretty wide, and we're trying to minimize those people waiting on University Avenue to turn left into the Mills or to turn left into Blaze, whichever direction you're coming. So Mills and the Blaze, they'll be able to still right in, right out off University Avenue, but they'll have full range of motion off Belvedere with a great set of signal lights there that will handle all the traffic.
Just a supplementary question. So, will the median act as a refuge?
It will be, yep.
Similar to what we did at the university, when we had to take
Yes.
it because of issues of
Yes.
too many lanes.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that in your
Yeah, it's solid.
schematics here. Yes, it gives you, I think it's about a 2 meter wide, so you get a nice refuge of 2 meters in that area.
I did notice that it's there on the plan.
Yeah.
On Belvedere, going east.
Yeah.
Will there be a median also?
No, does not need to be a median on Belvedere. No.
Thank
So
you.
you just have a
It's gonna be-
dedicated lane.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, is there gonna be a right when you're coming in Belvedere to go to University
Yeah.
Avenue? We're gonna put
there'll be a right
lane.
turn, dedicated right turn lane, that's
That's
correct.
good.
Yeah.
No, that's a good move.
Yeah.
Because then we'll stop the back up to the round and
Yeah.
come in the back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the access off University Avenue
Mhm.
for Blades.
So to access Blaze off University, you would have to be heading north on University Avenue. You go right in.
You only right.
Yeah, right in, right out,
Right
and
in,
then
right out, yeah.
you left, and then off of, off Belvedere, you have full range of motion.
Yeah, go
Yep.
either way. Right.
Okay, this was discussed with the owners of Blaze.
We've talked, and we've had some preliminary talks, so we approached him really early on, because we knew they were doing their their construction. So we did have some discussions about their corner that's grass right now, and that's why it's grass. It worked well with our plan and their plan as well, so our engineer worked with their engineer to make sure that corner was. He's aware of it. We still are gonna reach out again, have another discussion with them, and to make sure that he is as satisfied as we can make it. We also have already met with the folks at Mills. They understand why we're trying to achieve our goal, and they'll work with us however they can.
So the owner of Blaze is the owner of Sidewalks too.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so,
Just a quick question.
yes, Council.
As you proceed with that, if I can just ask Scott a question. You'll obviously have all this stuff in a written document from each of the business owners, not just a verbal.
So usually, once everyone's satisfied, we'll have email discussion, so we'll send plans and they'll give it, so we'll have some type of form or written, likely through an email, that they're aware of the plan and here's what we're happening and how we can negotiate. Now, if there's a piece of land that we need to work with or work on, we'll obviously enter into encroachment agreements with them, just like we would anywhere else, any construction project we need to.
So we don't have to have, like a contract of some sort? What happens if our city workers go on to somebody else's property?
Again, we usually make owners aware that we're working near their property. If we end up digging this, when you put a sidewalk up against the property line, we always dig in on private property, there's no way around it. Our guys usually say, we're working here, we'll replace the sidewalk, and 99 times out of 100, there's no issue, because we reinstate everything. If they're unhappy with it, they just give us a shout, we'll come back and, maybe it wasn't graded right, or
Right.
the seed didn't take, the grass didn't take, so we'll replace the grass. So we are very accommodating, working with private landowners as well.
Great. Anything else, Council?
No, I'm good.
Both these, good. So it is a little, I understand where you're going.
We've been there before.
Yeah, so, I know we're gonna adopt this, or we'd like to adopt this.
Yep.
So, when do you see all the contact business information being done? Because I'm sure council's probably gonna ask that question.
Sure. Again, we're trying, we got a list of all the names and business owners, impacted properties. A lot of properties really aren't impacted per se, it's just we want to say, here's the work that we plan to do at some point in time out in the public right away, and it's more of a heads up. Again, there's a lot I've talked to just in passing, some of the folks from McDonald's and Tim Hortons are aware of this plan already. And I've got nothing but positive feedback from them. They're very excited. They're glad to see they've invested so much money into their properties. They want to see the city invest in their property as well, and hope that some of these properties that may need some investing in privately, that encourages the private investors as well to keep fixing up their property. So the goal is right now we anticipate over the next couple of months to get everyone. It's going to take a while with schedules and everything, but that's the long-term goal for this. Yeah.
Yeah, but there, I mean, I guess, yeah, they all got contacted, but I mean, especially all the businesses that are in this phase one, they're gonna be notified and
Yeah.
how many barriers.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. Like we have to work with the feds, with the federal government on all the land, the vacant farmland there,
Okay.
all that. So we're trying to get that contact person right now, trying to figure out who that is. So it takes some time to figure out who owns certain properties.
And then Councilor Duffy has a question, but just before you do, Councilor, so, I mean, we can adopt this, but changes could be made.
100%. Any plan is changeable,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay.
And really this, we're adopting the concept of this
Right.
plan to go forward. Final design, when we get to the construction phase, is when we have to tweak a corner here or there, or adjust the crossing here or there based on what we see at that time, or or how we have to work with the business owners. So there's always tweaking. This is not set in stone. This is the concept going forward. Yeah.
Councilor Duffy.
Yes. Scott, is there going to be any kind of public exposure? I don't really have to use the word exposure this day and age, these days anyway. But I mean, is there going to be any public relations sort of evening at the hotel for people that, people are really interested in this sort of thing? You wouldn't think people would be all interested in a new right-hand turn lane, but they are, because people have got stacked there through two lights, so they're very interested. So are we going to have any type of public display? I don't mean to take the information in from, just let them know what's going on.
That's something we definitely can do if we want, to make it a public meeting. I guess the original thought was, because the most impacted were the business owners,
Yeah.
that we would meet individually with each business,
Yeah,
and
sure.
then that
Yeah.
would get, because sometimes those public meetings, especially in COVID, there's a lot of restrictions, you can't do,
Yeah.
it's more of a kind of Q&A, not I can't have a conversation across the table, like we did with the Fitzroy bike lane. That's kind of the style, it's much better.
Yeah.
Information session.
Exactly, versus just
Like we did for Simmons.
Exactly, yes.
Senator Rayner would be nice, yeah.
It's a good idea,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
You could have all those,
Yeah.
you could have all those diagrams up on
Yeah.
planters, and
Yeah.
people.
So if we wanted to go full public, we can look at that option. I don't have any problem with that at all. My only request would be at the committee, hopefully, as long as you're in agreement that we still, if approved a capital budget, once we get to that discussion, we can still start proceeding with some of those areas. Yeah, I see no problem with
We
that.
gotta start somewhere, right?
100%, yeah.
But
Yeah, so.
I think that'd be,
So maybe we can aim for something the first of the new year then, to have more of an open house discussion.
Fitzroy Street idea was,
Yeah.
instead of having this big long radio,
Yeah.
people just came, they looked, and then they put little posts and they were up on,
Yeah.
on the picture saying.
It's not a 2 hour, just sit there and hear other people talk.
Yeah, flash back all the
Yeah.
little posts and
Yeah.
it's just.
It also helps the criticism. It also helps the criticism when, we're forced to have one lane for 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the cars are lined up. At least they know what the goal is, and the pain is worth the gain, so to speak. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So that will be part of the doc of this plan, is that we'll have a public information session recommended by the council from Wards. We
Yeah.
have fully agreed. That's a first. That's a first.
Send it out to council. All right.
I have to write that on the wall.
Fully agreed. So,
So I guess what we'll do then is we'll hold off on any resolution going to council at this moment. Or do we still want to?
We gotta adopt something, right?
Yeah.
And get it going, so,
Yep.
and that gives council
Yeah.
and staff an opportunity to, and to give their 2 cents worth what they
Yep.
see, and go from there. Do you have something to say?
Every time I look up, someone asks me. No, I just think that from what Scott's perspective is that I think what you're not looking for a public meeting per se. I think
No.
what you're looking for is a
Public
communication
information.
strategy.
Engagement,
Yeah.
engagement, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, and we had a couple of
Is
them.
it a charrette they call it? Where you come in and work and just
Yeah.
go to the different
Yeah.
booths and talk to people?
Yeah, you can have the designer there as well.
Have it at the farm center too, right at the end.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to build on what Tina just said, like a communication strategy would include that information session, but it could include other things besides just a public information
On the
session.
social media platform.
Media releases and all that too.
Right?
We'll do what we
That's what I
do.
think, yeah.
And also because there's a difference between holding a public meeting where you want people to provide input on how you're going
Right.
to change things versus a communication strategy, which I think Scott's saying the communication strategy, great, but we want to go forward with initiating a plan as it stands now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what you're saying.
Good point, Tina, good point.
But the public information session that we had for the Fitzroy Street bike lane
Open
went very
house.
well.
Yep.
Yeah.
The public information session that we had for Simmons Arena at the Simmons Arena went very well.
Yeah.
It was set up where you could walk booth to booth and get
Yep.
your input, feedback, and it was very positive.
Just show people what's going on.
But the difference, if I can, Chair,
Yeah.
of the Fitzroy Street and the
Simmons?
Simmons is those things had not already been adopted by council to move forward, because we didn't end up moving forward with Fitzroy Street after we had gained additional information from the session. And we changed things at Simmons. What Mr. Adams is saying is that we're going to approve this concept. So if we have a public information session, we just want the public not to be disappointed that they're there to be kept informed, but the concept is already moving forward.
Good point, Councilor, but I think the chief engineer said that if changes have to be made, we'll make the changes. Correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So if the
Okay.
public come in and say, listen, I don't think this should go like this,
Yeah.
okay, we'll write it down, come back to the committee, that's my understanding, Mr. Chairman, and discuss it.
Okay.
My goal would be to meet with all the business owners, because they're the ones that are most impacted, of course, any of the property owners along there. You know,
But you will see, like County Duffy says, so you're gonna see, I think, a massive interest in university.
Oh, absolutely,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's gonna start in January,
Yep.
and
Of
you're
course.
gonna
Kirkwood
see,
used to.
you know, people from all parts of the city
Yeah.
will probably have something to say.
Of course, yeah.
Because we all use it, right?
Yep, yep,
I
absolutely.
think it would be
You know.
in full agreement with it too.
Yeah, I
Oh,
hope
yeah,
so,
because-
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bottleneck there. If you leave
Yeah.
the guy making all that, using that goal.
Yeah.
So put some old fashioned lights up.
So, you want a motion? Mr. Evans, do you want a motion today, like, to move the council?
Does all council have this report?
Every council has been given a hard copy of this report. Yes, all council. They've been
Quite a
July or
while.
August, I believe.
Yeah, we've had.
Bring it
quite a
back.
while, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Someone
the reason
stole
I
one
asked-
out of the
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Reason
We're gonna do a read aloud someday, Tina, you come in here and do a read aloud.
Okay,
The
so,
whole thing.
do I have a motion vote?
Story time.
Yes, I'll move it.
Moved by Councilor Ramsey, seconded by
I'll second.
Councilor Hancock, that we move forward with the University Avenue Master Plan to council.
As the concept of.
For the concept plan, and there will be open houses and communication.
Information sessions.
And information session, open house, and in the meantime, the staff of Public Works will be approaching the business. Okay, all those in favor? 3, oh, okay. Everybody's in favor, good calls, thank you. Moving on to the sidewalk 5-year multi-use pathway construction plan. Mr. Adams?
Thank you, Chair. So this past summer, I guess where this plan came about, we Public Works get a number of requests each year from both the public and councils. A request for new sidewalks or new multi-use pathways around the city. There are a number of streets in the city that do not have any sidewalk or multi-use pathways. A lot of cities across Canada have adopted policies in terms of what streets would get a sidewalk at certain point, but bunch will allow, of course, if they don't have one already. And it's typically any street that is not a dead end or not a cul-de-sac, or they usually would set maybe a certain number of homes. So there's a couple different policies that they can look at. So one of the things we will be drafting going forward, part of this plan will be that policy on how we do distinguish, but we have been using that criteria in trying to identify existing streets in the city that we feel would significantly benefit from a sidewalk or multi-use pathway. And what we use for criteria for pathways is we essentially had a big map of the city out on the desk in front of us. We were looking at areas around school zones that are missing, areas of high traffic or in terms of vehicles, areas that are densely populated in terms of residential, and areas that are disconnected. And what I mean about disconnected, you'll drive down some streets where you'll see the sidewalk just kind of ends somewhere, and it looks like there was a plan at some point to continue it on to connect to some existing one, but what ended up happening, there wasn't a plan, so year one, half it got built, year two, it got canned and they never went back to it. And so that's what we're trying to do here is identify those areas, like I say, break them up too. We didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money on one street, as much as we could. We tried to pick strategic locations that we could do phased approaches. And a prime example, I look at Hillsborough Park here. We do, there's about 2 kilometers of road in there that has a lot of vehicles in there, and a lot of pedestrians, a lot of young families in there. And we broke it up over 4 years to finish those areas. So we tried to break it up as much as we could as well to spread our funds. We used an estimate of approximately $3 million per year going forward. That was kind of our benchmark for this project. And we've based on all those criteria, we have recommending the document in front of you, as you see here, for the next 5 years for either sidewalk or multi-use pathway. And a little caveat on this, it's again, never, I don't want to say it's set in stone, because if at the end of the day, if we looked at, I don't know, if I picked a street, for instance, and we wanted to put a new sidewalk in it, but say Ash Drive in year 3 we have right now, for example, and water and sewer comes and say, oh, next year we want to do water and sewer in this area. Well, it makes more sense for us to bump it up to year 2, and then we'll drop something in year 3. So we will, once this list is approved and adopted by council, we will share it with our counterparts, both water and sewer, Parks and Rec, but also Maritime Electric, district heating folks, all those folks, so we can coordinate our work. We've already started this conversation with Maritime Electric as well, and they're very happy to see that. So we're trying to work with all utilities out there, so that we're in there on one street once, not multiple times over the next few years.
So, thank you very much, Scott. Before we get into questions, I just want to say that I think council's been asking for this. We all get hit with, when's this getting done, when's that getting done, when am I getting it done? So this is a good resource for council and for the public to engage. And like you said, there's always changes to these things simply because of the underground infrastructure and whatever we might want to do. But I'll go first with Councilor Duffy and then Councilor Rand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one question, and I don't want to come across as trying to kill somebody's project at the hopes that I will gain from it, because I don't have any roads or streets or pathways, sidewalks or anything on this, and really I don't need any, because I live in a small ward, it's a mature ward, and we pretty well are well looked after. So, but I am curious about this one up here, Centennial Drive. I was copied on an email regarding this site over the weekend. It came from your worship. I think your worship was passing it on from the person that was inquiring about it. Yeah, and he lives around the corner from me, which is quite a distance from Centennial Drive. I'm just curious, Yellow, what involvement, is he the chair of the board? This is a fairly big institution now, with the addition of the chapel court. And I was around in Sunday snooping around, because I wasn't at all familiar with Centennial Drive. I just wanted to know what made the place tick. And they have a connection, a corridor, a covered corridor, mature corridor going from the old Atlantic Baptist Church, to the new chapel court. And that chapel court is in the shape of a horseshoe, and the corridor comes through from the nursing home the backhoe, which is, right there. So I think residents could access the parking lot on Belvedere Avenue, which is one over from Centennial, because there's two doors there from Chapel that come out on into this parkway, into this parking lot. Now, that's all I know, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm looking at, and I'm not out to kill the thing.
No.
I'm just saying it's a chunk of change at $440,000. That's a lot of money. First of all, I'd like to know what this person's, I'm curious to what, is he, why is he promoting it he's so far away? That, I guess, is one of my questions. The other is, do the patients, the residents of this institution, do they utilize Centennial Drive? Because he says in his letter to us that these people are housebound. So I'm saying, well, why would you put almost $500,000 into a pathway for an institution that is full of people that are housebound? And God bless them, I wish them well and a happy life. But there's a lot of questions unanswered in my head. So could I have some answers?
So just since you're on that particular one, so Scott, so the 440,000, so some of Centennial Drive probably needs infill too, right?
It does.
Correct, yes. So if you look, there is a column right beside the length of the road, infill required. So anything that is infill required, this is a big matrix to calculate our unit prices and all that. So yes, so again, we've always said that we're not just infilling ditches for the sake of infilling ditches. The goal is for operational need, and this is an operational need where we're limited on the right of way, and we would have to install the sidewalk. In terms of, I guess, I don't know the gentleman that you speak of, so I can't speak to that matter. But I guess two points, I guess. So Centennial Drive was slated to be done, or 50% of the roads was slated to be done into this fiscal. Prices were astronomical this year. So we had delayed it and awarded 2 other locations this year. So the original plan was to do half this past year and half next year. We are stating to do the entire thing at one cost this time. And it's one of those things that, you may or may not see people using the side of the road. I always use this example that I get a lot of families that will call and they're not comfortable taking their kids out, or they're not comfortable using sidewalk, so you don't use it, so you don't see them out because they're not comfortable being out there. So it's great that these folks up to now have been able to utilize that back area, but this just gives them another option, another access point to get out and see the community, and new access points and new places to go. And again, it benefits the residents. It gets anyone off the road or off the side of the road and onto a sidewalk, which is much safer than walking on the side of the road. So that's where it stemmed from. We have gotten a lot of requests over the years for Centennial, and that's why I did make the list last year.
Supplementary to that, I'm done. Have we talked to the people at Centennial or Chapel Court? Like, has the request seems to have come from one person who apparently is unconnected. My limited knowledge of the individual lives around the corner from myself. I'm just curious. I mean, before you spend $450,000, have we had any indication from the administrator at the home, the patients at the home, the person in charge of transportation or recreation at the home, or are truly these people housebound? And if they're housebound, gee, that's a hunk of change. That's a hunk of change for what maybe 12 homes, 12 private and residential homes on a sidewalk. An ordinary sidewalk would probably, I don't know, Scott, is probably ordinary sidewalks just as expensive when it comes down to it, or even more. I've seen some numbers.
Yeah, sidewalk multi-use pathway is about the same. But again, just to go back to that point, Centennial is a cut through between Manover and Maple, so it does get a lot of vehicle traffic. And again, we don't, this sidewalk is not dependent on one request. We've had requests for previous years. And even if I didn't get requests, like there's a number of roads on here that we probably have never gotten a request for, that I can recall, maybe before. But again, it's to make those connections, it's to provide a safe passage for those folks in these areas. It makes it more appealing to move to these neighborhoods, to have a sidewalk. You get better access, and people feel safer getting out and about. You typically, once you build something, you start to see more people come about. I never saw anyone driving on the bypass, and since we've done the multi-use pathway around the bypass, you see a lot of people
Same
out
with
there.
bridge.
And it's, the old saying goes, you build the come. I do believe that, especially when it comes to active transportation, and there's a big movement towards it. People want to get out, walk, run, bike, cycle, whatever they want to do. And if they don't feel safe doing it, they're not going to be out there. And until you build it for them.
Okay.
Thank you. So,
Thank you.
Councillor Range's question, but just before we come, so is there any movement on this, like what, as council sees this, how written in stone is this?
What we tried to do was essentially, we came up with a list of where we thought were priority, I guess, in terms of over a 5-year period. And then based on that list, we tried to look at priority areas in terms of like Centennial. We made a commitment last year. I hate to bump down the road again, since we made a commitment last year, it didn't get done. We want to put there this year. I looked at Raiders Road, that's around a school, that's kind of a priority. The rest street, yes, there is some flexibility for sure in this list. It's not set in stone by any means. It was really what we're trying to do was to balance the 3 million per year over 5 years.
Right.
So that was really the main change.
Yeah.
But again, there are some, like I say, in Hillsborough Park, I look at, we have it, we're doing a sequence, right? We're starting in one area and working our way over. So there are some things to move those around would be challenging. You can bump it all down by year if you wanted to. But to, do this section, then do this section, there's a bit of a disconnect or disjoint.
Go ahead, Councillor Range.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So Scott, this is just for sidewalks and multi-use paths, right?
For brand new multi-use paths.
Brand new, I should
Yes.
say.
If there's no street, if there's no sidewalk or multi-use pathway on the street, that's where these come.
Okay, I'm just
We
trying
will-
to wrap my head around, because
Yeah.
if the sidewalks have to be, that's under operation.
Still capital, it's a different fund though.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
and we'll repair, like, if it's long stretches, we usually try to wait and repair them when we pave the road.
Right.
Which is roughly, that's typically what happened. Or if there are small repairs, then our crews do that
Correct.
on the operations, that's correct.
And just getting, and I'm pleased that you brought up Raiders Road. With our discussions, you and I and Peter and people up there in Dale McCarthy, the principal, was the school board has anyone in contact with the school board to see if they're gonna help with the costs along that line?
So I believe,
Because
Yeah.
they are requesting it, correct?
yes, they are requesting. So one thing with these roads, so there's a new round of AT funding. And if everyone agrees to year one here, we're gonna put all these roads on that request for AT funding for this year, which I think it closes on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, Friday or next week. So we will make that request to put those all there.
Yeah,
So
'cause that
that's
was an
funding
option
through
out there when I talked to
Mhm.
Kristen McKay a year ago.
Yeah.
And the last, if I may, Mr. Chair, on the Raiders Road, is it 1.3 million?
Nope.
No, I'm sorry, 338,000.
Correct. So
How
that,
did that go from 160 or 180 to 338,000?
I'm not sure where the 180 came from.
One day,
for that
Peter and I were
road.
talking, and I don't know if it got a hold of you or something on
Yeah.
that, but
So we've tried to develop unit costs. These prices can go down for sure.
Oh, yes.
I think these are high, but I think they're slightly high, but right now what's going on is there's so much unknown out there in terms of supply material. Pipe product this past year went up 30-40%, I believe. So that's substantial.
That's your plastic. right?
Yeah, anything plastic, anything ABS is way up. It's crazy. So we tried to base these prices on what we're seeing from consultants that are giving us for assumed unit prices, what we're seeing in real world this past year and in previous years, and trying to come up that unit price. So I believe this is worst case scenario, and I believe that we should hopefully come under these prices. But I didn't want to put in an unrealistic number there, and we have.
Oh, no,
yeah.
no. Like, I'm just asking because I don't know where the price came from 160.
It likely would have been, we used to assume $350, $400 per meter, but that is just straight putting the concrete sidewalk down.
That comes back to my question,
Yeah.
since the school is looking for it.
Yeah.
And Kristen McKay said last year maybe they couldn't work with us, and she didn't promise anything, but I mean, that would sort of bring that cost down a little bit.
Yeah.
Public school branch just operates the school, Department of Education and Public Works,
Yeah.
province, own and operate.
We have to go through public works.
So we have to go through either Minister of Education or James Howard, Minister.
And that's why I believe we would have hopefully good luck with the AT funding, provincial
But the
AT.
work of Florida too, you know, James
That's-
Howard knowledge,
that's-
isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sending an email, I'm sorry to say it's no.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you have to filter that to the right department.
Correct.
In every sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Council.
So, Mr. Chair, you know, I look at this list and then I look down on the fifth year, top of the list is Towers Road. If we look, you know, going back to what we said earlier, if you look at public response and putting something in, we all receive the emails.
Right.
Not one, not 10, 20, 30.
Yeah.
I go to church every Sunday and Mrs. McCrae comes up, when are you doing that Towers Road? Multi-use path. So, we have a huge cry out there and it's down, like Scott, I know you have to juggle the numbers, but if you look at connecting the dots, I think as you said earlier, Centennial Drive connects Maple to
Man, Everett.
Mount Everett
Yeah.
Road. Mount Everett Road goes right up to Towers and Maple.
Yeah.
And then you can take Towers down to the Federation Trail. So all connected the dots. And Towers Road has to be a priority, guys. They've been screaming out there. I don't know why, but they just are not happy where it is.
Well, if I may.
And I'm just putting that on the record.
I'll be strictly honest with you, Mayor. So, we made a decision 3 years ago
Yes.
that until all construction is done on that road, we weren't gonna do the sidewalk. We don't wanna see our infrastructure get all tore up again. That was the number one reason. Now, 2 months ago, we can listen to the counselor, and we said, you know what, we're gonna put up the dividers at least, right, until we hear you, we hear the folks, this is what we're gonna do. So, once we showed a little movement, now all of a sudden the floodgates opened, right? But at the end of the day, the counselor of the area has not told the proper story, and the proper story is that there's more construction happening there. And we're waiting. If you want to knock on someone's door, go knock on the developer and say, when are you finishing this? We need to get our sidewalks done. That's the problem, right? When is the project get done? I think Councilor Duran, he's probably mentioned 10 times, why are we changing this plan every year? There's been changes, there's some change. But that was fine. But now that the ball's in the city's court, everyone wants to stop and let's get it done now because the city, but really, the developer should be putting it in to begin with, not the city of Charlotte. The benefit is to the developer,
We don't have that in our
right?
bylaw.
So, at the end of the day, every one of us, you want to start talking streets, the reason I asked if there's any movement is Laurie Drive is as much a cut to, it's got a senior's home on it. We had a public meeting, and what did the people cry? They wanted access to the park, which there isn't any, right? There's no sidewalks, it's a cut through. Nobody wants to go down the home hardware corner and make that turn, so they go up Laurie Drive over onto Gordon Drive and up. So that's what I'm saying, we need to, I mean, you want me to go out and knock on every door and say, send an email? I can do that. But that doesn't mean it's true.
Scott, did we not take down the barrier? I think we're down.
Down now for winter, yeah.
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 But I
It's
mean,
unsafe.
there's not, okay.
But sure, it's safe.
If you Jackson's on tape, it doesn't.
No accidents there, Your Worship. In 4 years, there hasn't been an accident due to design of the road.
My concern is
There's
this.
been one in across, it's been Councilor Tweel.
Has been developed,
Pardon?
Councilor Duffy. The area is being constantly.
Yes, and you know what? There's a lot of traffic on it. And it's the same, Your Worship, as Prince Street School. The police tell us this, but it's good to have those parked cars and the cars moving all the time. people having to pull over to let the other guy come and vice versa. And that it's good to have that sort of activity because it slows the traffic down and no one's going to get seriously hurt. I hope not hurt at all.
Counselor, just on that last
I know.
point, look, I don't want to see someone get hurt. I'm just saying, this has to be really.
Well, okay, so just to make the argument, Ward 2, my ward, I got one street on here, so don't be looking at me as if I'm promoting Ward 2. But Ward 2 is a heck of a lot older than a lot of these streets that we're getting down here today. Like, are the people on Bolger Drive not just as important? Is the people on Henry Blanchard just as important? Is the people, like, so, you know what? Just because one council's out there roaring and blowing off steam doesn't mean it's important. Now, the truth hasn't been told out there. He purposely has done this, and now the pressure's on us to get it done. I'm sorry, he was told 3 years ago that we're not doing it until the construction on the road was complete.
And Mr. Chair, we told him 3 years ago, don't get out there rebel rousing and raising the hopes of people by telling them stories that aren't true. Do not have a public meeting and come back here and you're using a sky is falling attitude in order to get that done. And you know what? That's exactly what he did in 2019.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say, I don't agree with it. I know, I've heard your arguments, I've heard Councillor Duffy's arguments. We've received just a tsunami of emails.
Because it was created.
They don't know it's going to cost $370,000, either $350,000.
No, I'd just like to remind the chair that this is a public meeting.
Yes.
I'm fine with what, I'm quite fine with what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that the whole city is important.
Yeah, it is.
And I think the key message here is that our chief engineer and his staff and everybody else have been consulted. They formed a set of criteria for which to look at the sidewalks, and that criteria is being applied fairly across the city and all wards. I think that's the message.
And you know what, as part of the communication strategy, as we talked about earlier, University Avenue, then we better establish or put together a communication strategy to explain the chief engineer and his staff's recommendations, year 1 to year 5, so that everybody get the same message. Thank you,
Well,
Mr.
it's
Chair.
either that, Mr. Mayor, or why don't you decide which one of the ones is coming out?
No,
Staff has made recommendations. If you want to start jerking around, then pick
I'm
one of
not
them.
joking around.
Pick one of them you want to take out. Who's coming up?
We talked earlier about public response, and no public response was about one area. We're getting lots about this area, we're saying, well, we don't want that either. So, like, I'm getting confused with the picture I'm getting here. What do we want? Do we want public response, public involvement, public connection, or do we just want to bounce it back and forth and say, okay, this works for
We have
this.
never been, just, no, at point of order, your worship, we're not bouncing nothing around.
Yeah.
This has been done, the decision of Public Works was made 3 years ago,
Yeah, yeah,
right? But the councillor refused to listen to it. He said, I'm going out and hold my own public meeting.
yeah.
Great. And now he's opened up a can of worms and he can't get out of it. So now he's got everybody writing his emails.
And
Let's be true with this.
So let's go with the communication strategy that we talked about University Avenue on the 5-year plan, and our chief engineer and staff can explain it.
Like Ward,
Correct, sir?
and let's be a little more fair here. Ward 1,
Yes?
none. Ward 2, 1. Ward 3, none.
Ward 6, 8,
Ward 4,
over the, Ward
none. Ward 5, 1 or 2 or 3. Ward 6,
8.
yeah, Ward 7. So, like, you know, I mean, are you going to tell me that the people out in that area is the only people going to be complaining about this list? Come on.
There's already lots of feedback. I'm just saying that we received feedback already from a lot of residents out on the Towers Road.
But your worship, not because they've got the worst situation, because the counselor out there went door to door.
I don't know that.
I know it. Gee, all you have to do is read the form
I
I just
just
never
put my case to the table, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Let's do the election coming. Okay, let's move on.
Can we make a resolution to forward the council for adoption?
The list?
I'll move that. I'll second it.
There's a motion on the floor to accept the staff's recommendation of new sidewalk and multi-purpose path with 5-year horizon. We moved by Councilor Duffy, second by Councilor Ramsey. All,
This is just to move it to council.
move it to council.
Move it to council.
Move to council. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
So you don't tiebreaker.
no. We got Canada Post mailbox update. Scott, do you have an update?
I do, yeah, so we found a report at the end of your package there. So it's been a lot of questions been asked past few meetings, so I want to clarify and confirm this list with my local contact. He's based in Nova Scotia, but his primary responsibility is the community mailboxes in both construction and maintenance. So he's the guy, if I got any issues, I call him and he gets done usually very, very quickly. So anyway, so I have two main questions here. So what is Canada Post responsible for when installing a new location? So Canada Post and their contractor are responsible for installing mailboxes for placement of asphalt if it's placed at the roadside. If it's got a gap of meter between the road and the mailbox, they are to pave that strip in between the mailboxes and the road. Brick pavers, they do use those if the mailbox is behind the sidewalk. So that's where you see brick pavers. So that's that. And then say if it's in the area, it gets installed where it has never been paved or it's not paved yet. They usually just do gravel to feather it all in because that's the surrounding area. But typically it does get paved. I think there's only one location I can recall that there is gravel right now, or two. Most of them should be all paved. So maintenance. So Canada Post is responsible for maintaining the asphalt and gravel abutting the mailbox. They do any of the winter maintenance. They repair any of the pavers that are broken. The only thing that they don't do that was a question was the mowing around it, and this is similar to like Maritime Electric or Bell Line utility poles. They don't mow around them just like those folks don't. Usually it's up to either the homeowner or if we're in the area, we'll mow around them too.
Yeah, because I see, if I may, Mr. Chair, on Edinburgh Drive, the one right there, right across the Peter Porter Road, it's like the lady that's cut her grass, she go right up to the mailbox.
She goes right up to the mailbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people.
Most people will. There are very, very, very few out there that will.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think maybe what Councilor Already brought it up, and I think,
Yes.
I think part of the problem is they just paved that little section in front of the mailbox, but we all know cars are longer than the mailbox, so there's real ruts into the grass and into people's yardway, and I think on Falconwood, for example, the mailboxes are on this side of the street, and this side, because it's an empty lot, gets tore to blazes. You know, and who is responsible for that? Well, who put the mailbox there? I guess that's where some of the, that's where we're coming to.
It's
for us to go.
catch-22 kind of thing.
It was never our decision to put the mailboxes in, so why do we have to pay them? I guess
Right.
That's the $1 million question.
At the end of the day, federal regulation says Canada Post can put them anywhere. We work with them and try to find locations that are strategic to avoid those, especially newer locations. We've been trying to be, I've shot down many locations recently that they want to put down, and I work with them, and the gentleman's name is Chris. He's excellent to work with. He's very flexible. And then on the flip side, it's up to the residents. The folks, stay on the road, stay on the gravel. I don't understand why people feel the need to pull over. When there is on-street parking, you can keep your car parked. It's like if there's a curb there, you park up against it.
You're not there that long.
No. So, and there's always another lane. Like, you don't have to keep two-way traffic. When you allow a vehicle to park on a roadway, there's not necessarily a whole row of parking and you still have 2 lanes of traffic. No, that's not what we're trying to create. You can park on, maybe one tire on the gravel or all your tires are on the edge of the asphalt. But yeah, there's no need to go on the grass or way off the asphalt.
So just moving forward then, so just any councilor that has an issue with a particular mailbox.
Absolutely, send it to me and we'll definitely have a look at it. And if it's as simple as even relocating, we've asked them to do that and they've been more than happy to relocate. Might take up to a year because they have a new construction program every year that's relocated and adding new mailboxes. But as soon as we're aware of it, we work with Canada Post to either have addressed the issue, what can we do to fix it, or relocate it if possible.
Just a point of information, Mr. Chair, we did follow up through the office of the mayor, contact the
Yes, we're,
I think Jill sent out the email or the response that, what was being said or what was the understanding, was a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Everything's been clarified, and as Scott said, Post Canada, Canada Post hired a contractor to do the install.
Right.
So they take their hands free.
So this is-
So it's it has nothing to do with
yeah.
an MP
Right.
or Canada
No,
Post.
no.
So I think
So,
this needs to be dealt with.
yeah, so moving forward, any questions concerning them, go to Public Works and we'll work with the Canada First and Canada Post and away we go. Okay?
And we have one tender to
Yes.
run business. So we have for request for proposal recently, you'll see it on your one sheet here. It's proposed for supply and installation of new Charlestown City Hall office furniture and workstation. So this is a readjustment of the office space in the open areas of the main floor, Public Works Parks and Rec area, as well as the water and sewer open area. So we had 4 bids. One unfortunately was disqualified, but the other 3 provided us with a proposal and financial scoring, and we scored everything based on a technical score of 40% or 40 points out of 100. Financial is at a 60, and we are recommending Office Express at a price of $101,999 plus applicable taxes.
So that's for new furniture downstairs, Scott, you're talking?
Cubicles, all new cubicles, and so essentially the desk will be built in the cubicle, the overhead storage bins, everything for a new workstation. Yeah.
So I'll have to knock on your door now, will I?
Where is Office Express?
Office Express is, all I know is all of them are Atlantic Canadian. I don't know exactly if they're Moncton or Halifax.
No.
I'm not sure their offices, I don't have that information here. So essentially, the desk will be built in the cubicle, storage bins, everything.
So, just before voting on it, I just wondering,
I can,
No,
I'll Google for you and tell you where Office Express
so
is.
the local, there's nobody close in, right?
Pardon, sorry,
There's no local supplier that would be,
something telling me HMS maybe Island, but
It is.
ABI has a local office, Office Express, I'm not sure where they are. I think Moncton or Halifax, one of the 2. Yeah,
Office Express is in Moncton.
okay.
A quick Google search would have.
so, anyway, I just, I know sometimes we take a beating for not supporting local, so I'm just, just wanna make sure know what we're voting on and that we might fit that.
So Atlantic Business Office is also Atlantic
Yeah,
in our province.
no problems, yeah. So, okay, motion to, I guess, move it on to council. Moved by Councilor Duffy, second by Councilor Ramsey. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. You good, you Mike, you good?
Good, yeah.
Good, good. Okay, all good, thank you very much.
That's it?
And I need a motion,
No
Signage.
business.
I did wait to
Oh,
close.
no, they get one more second.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait to,
It's open, isn't it, your worship?
is
It
it?
is open.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk something, good, sorry.
I have to leave it.
Yes, you do have to leave, yes, okay.
I also have to leave at 2:30.
Okay, this shouldn't take too long. Okay, go ahead,
So Councilor Ramsey has received some calls. I know he brought it up at the council meeting in November, correct? And we're going through economic development. I know that we live in a very multicultural society, very diverse in languages, ethnic backgrounds, religion, and so forth. And I believe that the request made by a constituent in Ward 5 is that can we not just put up a signage like we have throughout the city to say Merry Christmas
Happy New Year, America.
and Happy
Yeah.
New Year. And all it would require is one piece of signage that could go up out on the corner of University of Kirkwood, which is in the corner of.
That's,
Anyways, it's just a request. I'm not saying to put them on all 5 of them. It's just part of the multicultural community that we live in, and we just represent one more religious leading group. Is that a difficult request?
I guess our only issue with these individual requests is if this were a request and someone gets wind of it, well, I like to have a sign in my name. I guess I would much rather, personally rather, as manager of public works, it makes it much easier if we draft a policy around how we deal with these requests. And then that way, there's no more debating on it. We debate it once and we have a policy around it, and then going forward, staff, this doesn't even have to come to these levels. It's already been debated and council's already happy with the matter. That's just based on, requests that we get a lot of requests for various things that we deny just because, operational and resources, there's financial costs associated with it. There is, what we don't even really have a policy on how we approach, we want to try to be all inclusive, and so do we truly have a policy that, directs us on how we deal with that? So those are always my concerns when we get these requests. These are
But your cost would be much for one side, Scott.
You're probably looking at $200 to $400 by the time.
I got $3,000 in the mayor's office that I didn't spend yet.
Yeah.
You put my picture on it if you want. No, I'm being honest. No, we do every other religion,
Which is great.
which is fantastic, because it shows we're involving everybody. But this is old school too, where you just want Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and you can shove it in, my backyard if you want, but I'm just saying, you can put a Nassau on Northern Road, like there's nothing there, but it just, I don't know. We seem to entertain every other request for signage, and as the mayor was saying, for 3 years, indigenous and all these other cultures that we did, we got them on our signs. Like, we're not asking for $100,000.
So, and are we crossing over into communications territory though?
Well, that's what that's law.
Yeah, and there's also that, what's the appearance of it, we do have a branding guideline, like it's more complicated than just getting a sign that says Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
As long as you have the logo on it, great place to live.
Yeah, as long as but since it's usually outside of the document, it's usually gotta get reviewed and approved.
Why don't you check in there from me if you don't mind?
All I'm asking is that we do this before, look at a policy.
Mhm.
This is outside the policy.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah,
It's
and maybe that's what we take from this, is we look at some type of policy to deal with these requests that are outside of the norm, or outside of our typical operational needs, and give us direction on how to do it. And then again, at the end of the day, it gets away from us, or the council, and debating it. Like, remember the Women's Institute sign, how long was that debated for? So if we have a set policy of these items that are outside our ordinary operations, it would make life, I think, easier for you folks around the table.
The reason I brought up this, Scott, because I brought up the council, and then the chair of economic development got a text saying, why did you bring it up? I brought up the comps, and she said, no, that's under our committee. So I researched and asked our CAO and two or three people, and they said, no, at the end of the day, it ends up in public works. So I'm saying to myself, well, there's 3 committees now that I'm going through for this thing. Somebody must have an answer. Either yes or no, right? And I don't know, like,
Yes, like any signage around city.
it's not a hill I can die on, I'm just saying.
Public Works, we just usually put up the sign. Anything that's advertising any type of event or
Right.
festivity doesn't come to us for approval. We just get here's the approval that's been done, please put up the sign, and here's the sign that's ready to be picked up.
So it goes to comps. It's the bottom line.
I believe it went either through communications or events and tourism folks. That's, because like all those other signs that are around, those are the economic, or events and tourism folks. folks, I think those were.
Fall into fall.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, those,
Spirit.
yeah,
Spirit of Christmas
we never get
season.
into the approvals or anything of that, it's just, it's been approved to be put up here, put it up, and so we will.
If I could just say one point, Councillor Yankoff, we're in a small city. We have a lot of like, for example, 97 countries are students. Students up from 97 countries make up 30% of UPEI's population. And we're a rural of 200 countries. Colonel Gray High School has 52 countries that represent or part of their school population. We have a very diverse society, and you know what? We can celebrate through Happy Hanukkah, Happy Diwali, Happy Ramadan, Happy Merry Christmas. I think we should do that. That should be part of how we want to engage. And if you look at the statistics, Scott, our retention of immigrants on Prince Edward Island is 16%, the lowest in the country. So, you know, it's not just about Christianity, it's about all cultures and all religions. And I think we're just saying, we're starting here with Christmas because it is the season to be done.
Okay, so,
So we'll go to the council then with that.
so we're gonna move to go to communications with this? Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
communications are wondering who's gonna do it. Well, now if we have a sign, all that
Well, we can
does
put the sign, it's just a matter of,
is design.
Yeah, who can do it?
But it's not, but it's not it's not Public Works
No,
decision
really.
to
No.
make.
no.
And
But I was
the
told
only,
once, that's why I brought
the
it
only
up.
fact that we have of this entire conversation that I can know for sure is that the report from Laurel is that all of the particular designated areas for holiday signage is already earmarked for the season. It's booked and confirmed. So the next logical explanation is to figure out, is there another location that we can put signage, and what committee does it fall under? Because it clearly, according to you, does not fall under Public Works.
No, you only install.
We
You install.
install, they would, if it was a new sign, they would ask us, does this have any impact on public safety? But as for the message or anything like that, no, we don't, since I've been here, I've never been asked about any of those
Okay.
events or those signs, yes.
And so just to follow up, so because this is more of an operational, can we just give direction to Scott to go and find out where does this go from here?
Well, I think
And it would
I
need to
think
be
that-
right away because, I mean,
Yeah.
tomorrow's December 1st.
Yeah, I think the direction would be to get a hold of communications and make sure that they're okay with the sign going, and Scott could make a few suggestions where it could go.
Mr. Chair, just those, as Councillor Yankoff said, those 5 or 6 signs that are already around the city, we're not asking them on.
No.
This is a
It's a
separate,
separate sign.
and we could use it for Happy Hanukkah. We could use it for
Well,
all the celebrations, because
Yeah.
that's the beauty of this community that we live in.
But
It's
again,
multicultural.
this could be a bigger conversation. Do we want to develop a policy
Yeah.
at the city level saying, do we want to have a sign somewhere in the city that says Happy Hanukkah?
Yeah.
That said,
Yeah.
Kwanzaa, there are a number, and that's why I always tread lightly on these types of requests, because it can snowball very quickly.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
No pun intended.
yeah, exactly. And so,
I mean, you don't wanna
again,
go
it's
through
not,
one-
yeah, my goal is to protect you guys,
Yeah.
the city as a whole as well, and make sure that we're
Plus,
not.
you don't want to drive around all,
Yeah.
and have signs everywhere either.
No, exactly.
And that takes away the beauty of the city.
Of course, yeah.
The whole line there.
And you know what, it might be nicer to have someone actually design, because the ones that they do for the events and tourism, they're quite well done. Have a nice
Still there.
background in them and all
Yeah.
that. So personally,
But I just thought that
I
was
think we would be better off saying, let's take this as a learning curve, or a learning, and take a leading step and develop policy for next Christmas that we would, maybe we're gonna put up 5 signs around the city. We have them strategically designed by a designer, approved by the committee, and then we have them just Merry Christmas or Happy, Happy Holiday, whatever the message is, all kind of encompassing all.
I love your idea with the policy,
Chair.
but this is outside the policy.
Right, so we can create that policy with it,
Yeah.
you're all part of it.
Check
Okay,
out.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
We still have one.
so,
We still have
we
one.
still have one.
Don't leave me alone.
Okay, so,
Just under new business, just quickly,
Stop with these guys.
the Prince Edward Island Golden Gate Cruise
very-
and heavy Equipment Association would like to come in and speak to the committee. I had a call from past president Eric McLaughlin just to go over some of the issues that they're facing in terms of pricing due to COVID-19 and some other issues. So we just want to keep that in mind, Mr. Chair.
We'll
Maybe we'll have, not at the council, or not a committee meeting, but maybe we'll have a separate meeting with.
That's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very simple,
Yeah.
yeah.
Too much
Just
on
wanted
the
to come
agenda.
in. He gave me a call as part of, his post,
Mhm.
our meeting in November.
Right.
He just said, I want to try to give some more information to where we're at.
Okay. Right, no
Great.
problem there. Okay, so we have a motion, I'll need a motion to move into closed session as per section 119,
Oh.
subsection E, and, yeah.
What are we doing now?
I think we gotta read your agenda, so.
Oh, we're done.
No, we gotta go in closed. As per section, what is it, 119E subsection, or sorry, subsection E of the PI municipal government. So moved by Mayor Brown,
Yes.
seconded by Councilor Ramsey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Okay. You hit the door, sir, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll give you about minutes there.